Okay, guys, I'm here today with Brian Glick. Huge honor for me. Guys, Brian is the longest student of the great John Danaher. So you went from white belt to black belt with John, and you're probably the longest student that he has ever had, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And we talked in the previous previous video about like how he tried to make you give up all the times and this and that. Yeah, so guys, if you guys want to check a little bit more of the story of Brian as a student of John, make sure to check the other video. It's in the video about the clamp. But anyways, guys, in this video here, Brian's gonna explain a little more about the next instructional video that he's shooting, that it's all about the half butterfly guard, and it's under the under pressure series that he's creating. And again, I love the idea of the under pressure, Brian, and I think you're the perfect example because what's your weight?
I've spent a lot of time under pressure from a lot of tough
I
people.
can just see by your body type. I have no doubts because you're skinny, and I bet that everybody tries to make pressure on you.
It's 100%, and I think that I've never like my top game, like my passing game. I really feel like I didn't really have a top game until I was like. I mean, at this point, it feels like a couple of years ago, but I mean, I really did so much work from underneath because I was a smaller person. I felt like people were putting me on the bottom a lot of times, more aggressive people who were stronger. And then now these days, it's people who are younger than I am, who are much more mobile or flexible or athletic or stronger.
And if I had to create a timeline of your career, I bet that there was a surviving phase.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Then there was a phase that you got good on guard, and then there was a phase that you start sweeping people and playing on top. And,
right. That's actually pretty accurate. Yeah, I mean, I think that like I spent a long time just like surviving, and a lot of people can probably relate to that feeling if you're not a natural athlete.
Yep.
And as you kind of hinted at, I think that John was concerned that maybe I wasn't surviving quite enough, or that it wasn't going to last. And so like the first thing that I really feel like I learned out of from John was not top pressure. It was working from underneath. And over the years, I've heard Renzo say things like this too, and maybe I want to hear what you have to say too about it. But like, one of the things that really makes jiu-jitsu is the guard.
I agree.
It's like one of the identifying things. And I mean, for you, a big part of your career was based around half guard, right?
Half guard.
Was that, what did you start with doing? Did you start bottom position, or did you start playing top?
Close guard. Then at some point I couldn't close the guard anymore.
Right.
People knew that I was trying to close the guard, and then the half guard came, and then came my top game.
Right.
So it's a little similar to
I think it's good. I think it's a good way to progress in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. But I'm very interesting to hear from you how the half butterfly came to this journey. Yeah.
So half butterfly guard is one of those. It's a very interesting position because it's halfway. As the name implies, it's between a butterfly guard and a half guard. And one of the major virtues of half butterfly guard is that it focuses so much on having your legs on the inside position, like inside your partner's legs. Now, when you play butterfly guard, your feet are on the inside too. But I always felt like, John put particular emphasis on the value of half guard. And, again, that was really your bread and butter also. Yeah. There's so much you can do from there. But I really felt like I was kind of reluctant as a smaller person with bigger people, or a kind of a person who wasn't as, talented, diving like deep underneath somebody. And I remember learning like tight waist grips and scoop grips and driving through. And I always thought to myself like, I don't really like my chances from this position.
Got it. And you add one leg to the equation, right?
Exactly. I was like, okay, like this makes sense. So John was like, why don't we use one leg inside? And then I felt like when that leg was inside, I was able to keep people back, so my retention improved. And then if it failed and something went wrong, I felt like I was much more able to come out of the position and back to like a neutral position or butterfly guard. And then I could go and do something else, something that was like more appropriate to the context of what was going on. So it taught inside position as a skill, you know, and as something that was important. That was one. Two, it helped to give me some confidence in playing bottom more because I knew that I wouldn't have to be as committed and I could kind of bail out if I needed to. And then the third thing that was super important, and this became more important as people became better and better at attacking the legs, was that unlike half guard, I didn't have a leg hanging out on the outside. And so as John's system for leg locking became stronger and stronger, and then DDS came around and, you know, Gary and Gordon, they were attacking, having even just like a little bit of your leg hanging out, there was a period of time where like that was just like a death wish if you had your leg out. So during that time, I felt like, oh, this works really well because I can have my feet hidden inside and I don't have to worry as much about leg locks. So from a retention and recovery standpoint, it was really good. And then the other thing is offensively, there are a lot of really good options. And that's one of the things about each of the parts of this under pressure system, under pressure series. There are elements that are good for retention and recovery, but then also to be able to attack. And this is like directly in line with John's overall philosophy about jiu-jitsu and how we want to always be optimizing for submissions. When you play half butterfly guard, you can also attack very easily. And you can use kazushi or off balance to knock the person this way or that way. If you want to get underneath them, you can. If you want to make more space and push them away, you can. So it's excellent for distance management, but it's great for a couple of the core parts of his system. And so in the video, what we cover are sumigeshi, which is something that, again, I've learned from him probably when we talk about this in the video, but 1,000 times over the years. And it gets better every time. You know, I think there's not a lot of things in your life that, you know, if you see them over and over again, it gets better over time like that. But yeah, sumigeshi, I love it. And then pinch headlock and shoulder crunch, which was something that has been around really since, like, I think John was teaching it before I even showed up.
Brian, can you show some examples?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because you were talking, my brain's
of course. So when we talk about this half butterfly guard position, we're talking about a situation where our bottom leg is like a half guard, and our top leg is here, folded inside. So when we're here, we can play almost like a knee shield kind of position with this knee here in front, and this is great. But really, if you're much stronger than I am, oftentimes I can't stop you here, and yeah, you'll start to smash here. So oftentimes what we'll try to do is try to slip this leg actually to the outside.
Yeah, and now it's much harder.
It's much harder to work. And so often what will happen out of this position is you'll start to advance forward into me. And now from here, we can come more easily underneath our partner because we have this inside position and we have our bottom leg here. So a lot of what we're doing out of this position is building up to a place where we can establish underhooks. And now out of here, start to look to control our partner's wrist. We can threaten coming up, or we can go simply into sumigeshis and sweeps over here, where we can take our partner over and land in the top. So that's an example of using sumigeshi and kind of and knocking our partner over.
Yeah, and Brian, just like a quick thing here that you were talking about. Guys, for those who doesn't understand that, so one of the beauties of the half butterfly is that there's no threats on leg locks, heel hooks, foot locks, because you're both hooker inside, right?
Exactly, yes. So like if we were playing a kind of a classic half guard position,
have options here.
Exactly. So even if you keep your feet crossed here, there's still a risk that the person is going to turn. So once the foot is on the inside, there's no real risk that someone is going to start to attack your legs, and you've got the ability to control this distance much better. On the other hand, there are plenty of opportunities for us on the bottom to go in and attack the legs. Right. So a lot of times we have situations where we can start to scoop and expose our partner's legs. And from here, we have options to rotate around the corner. We can start to look to fold our body into place and go into backside 50-50 attacks. Okay. There are a number of different ways of doing that. So we have attacks to our partner's legs, but we're safe from our partner's attacks. So that's something else that's very important. And if I ever feel like there's a lot of pressure and you're advancing forward and I feel like I'm getting my knees smashed together here. Because I'm on the inside position, very often we can recover back into positions like the clamp.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, or if we don't like the clamp, we can come back here to a butterfly position and start to forward shift and then go to work from here.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
it serves so many purposes.
Yeah, no, and I love the fact that the first instructional video that you did was about the clamp.
Yeah.
And now you can start combining them. You can do the clamp, you can do the half butterfly, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that, when people are able to really combine not just techniques, but, and again, this has kind of been a hallmark of John's approach, is like you have a system of attack, but then you have subsystems inside that you can link.
Yep.
Jiu-Jitsu starts to make better sense, because it's like, I'm sure, you remember, like in the old days, it was kind of like you would learn a move and then you learn a move and then you learn a move.
Yep.
And if you're good enough at understanding, you can chain them together.
Yep.
But it makes much more sense to have things grouped. So instead of just like a lot of different branches.
Yeah, and by the way, like a lot of people ask me sometimes, like, why should they buy an instructional instead of just watching a YouTube video? And that's exactly the answer. Because if you just watch one video, it's one video. But what you really need most of the times, it's a system that you go from A to B to C to D to E to come back to B to go to... And so I agree 1,000,000%.
Yeah, that's one of the hard things. I think that there is so much information available for people. And the problem that people face, I think, as students now, which you and I didn't have at the very beginning because there was no YouTube, there wasn't really an internet when you started training, is that there's just so much stuff. And it looks like you should be able to just like take something and put it into your practice. But it just doesn't work like that, Not in any real way that's like usable for you over the long term. And so one of my goals for what I'm trying to share with people is stuff that not just like things that are working now, but things that have worked over the long term.
Yeah, no, and I love it how you mentioned that it's one of the only things in life that you feel like you're just getting better, better.
Yeah,
no, that's awesome.
And this is something too. I feel like every time I see John, or when I get together with Gordon, get together with Gary, like we're these things occur over and over again, and it's always like a little different variation, or it's something that I missed, and half butterfly guard is one of these areas. I feel like it's not a major area of focus for most people, but I think that for a lot of people, it's something that can provide a very useful bridge between things that they may feel comfortable with already. Half guard, butterfly guard.
Oh, and especially for no gi, because I see a lot of people, for example, that they're spider guard players with gi.
Right.
And then no gi, there's no grips, and they become half butterfly players, because that's kind of like the easiest path.
Natural transition, I mean, the other thing about this is we are doing this with no gi, but as with a lot of things that John has done over the years, both the clamp, which we did before this, and then the half butterfly, most of these things, with some leg locks accepted, really transition very well from gi to no gi because they're so much based in principles and concepts of jiu-jitsu that work regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even this weekend, like I saw Nicolas Merigali competing, and he's training under John now.
Right.
And I was concerned because I was like, man, he trained 2 weeks with gi. He was just training no gi. But it seemed like he was training with gi for like, so I think like a lot of the stuff that John teaches, which you learn and you also teach, it's a stuff that works for both. Another example was Marcelo too, like
and Marcelo was the first.
Was like the gi and no gi. There was no difference, so.
And that's a really beautiful way to study and to practice. You don't have to be like. Most people don't have time to develop a totally separate gi and no gi game. You know, so if you can bring them together, it's a really great thing for people.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Yeah, so guys, Brian just shot this entire instructional all about the half butterfly game under the Under Pressure series, and it's coming out really, really good. And he's a great example of that because I think you can just look to him. His body type, he's skinny, and he dealt with a lot of pressure in his life to the point that John tried to make him give up of jiu-jitsu a couple times. And but anyways, it's gonna be at bjjfanatics.com very soon. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there. So make sure to check that out. And thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for having me.
Thank you. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.